explain yourself. That's really bad. WikiLeaks is kind of another chapter in the story. Now, you talked about sharing and so on. Since 9/11, I was in government over 8 years since 9/11, all at the national level. I must have testified scores, if not hundreds of times in front of congressional committees. Whenever anything went wrong, okay, it could have been a plot just barely disrupted, or something we learned later than ideally we should have learned, or maybe indeed a plot wasn't disrupted and it happened. I got slapped around routinely by members of both parties, members of both houses, about the failure to share, okay? That you didn't share enough information. Sharing became an absolute good, okay? Sharing became its own metric. It's a little bit like, if you're using contractors, you better explain yourself. Well, with regard to sharing, if it's not in the common title pool, I want to know why. You've got to explain yourself. Now, those of us in government working the problem, actually, we say, no, Senator, yes, Senator, we got it, Senator, yes, sir, Senator, we're gonna share, no, Senator, we're making good progress, and yes, Senator, no, Senator, 3 bags full, Senator. And way in the back of your mind, you had that little thing called a conscience saying, you never said this aloud, yes, Senator, but sharing ain't always cracked up to be. There are real dangers with sharing. And we just had them displayed this past week. Okay. Look at what all was available on SIPRNet for what appears to be one or merely a very small number of evildoers, and what they were able to do because there are no longer many watertight doors on the ship of secrets. Okay. Now, that's my story. Here's my challenge to you folks. The reaction against this is going to be to push back against sharing. The reaction against this is going to be, so why is that available to every E4 in America's Army? Okay. You can help. Okay. What's the technology available that allows us to not turn back the clock on necessary sharing, but still reasonably guard us against what happened this past week? Okay, is it some sort of security structure? I don't know. Is it real-time keystroke monitoring with algorithms to say that's a strange? I mean, the kind of thing that wakes up Visa at 3 o'clock in the morning and said, Hayden just used a credit card in Nigeria. I think we're shutting them off. Okay, how do we do that inside the national security structure that allows us to continue the sharing ethic, and yet reasonably protects us against this very, very dark side? And by the way, if we assume it was the kid who did the helicopter video, and I have no knowledge, so I'm just knowing what I read in the paper, if we assume it's him, this was what, an E4 and E5 surfing only on SIPRNet. So in one sense, if you got to get a wake-up call, this is as bad as it is, it's probably as good as you could hope for. But it should be a real warning shot across the bow that we really need now to take into account these counterintelligence concerns, even as we share more and more. Now, that's a great job for Jim Clapper to take on when he gets confirmed by the Senate next week.
Right. Those are very thought-provoking positions on both sides. So next question is to the audience, and I'd like you to raise your hand if you feel you have a strong understanding of the mission and responsibilities of the National Security Agency, the Central Intelligence Agency, and the Director of National Intelligence Office.
I want to talk to you people afterwards. I want you to explain it to me.
So, General, would you mind explaining the different roles and mission?
Yeah, look, we're a very rich and very powerful nation. When we have a problem, we throw resources at the problem. It's what we do all the time, all right? When was the last time you were in a meeting that actually said, hey, this is a really difficult issue, let's just throw more human beings at it? I mean, that is acultural for Americans. Okay? We throw money and we throw technology. at these problems. And so we did that after 9/11. So it's not surprising that, what can I say that's not indictable? My budget doubled. There you go, okay? The CIA budget doubled between the week before 9/11 and the week I left government, all right? And so you've got this tremendous growth. There is reasonable understanding about lanes in the road. It's not nearly as bad as described in the Dana Priest, Bill Arkin article. Is it perfect? No. Back to the NFL metaphor. Do we need to know who the team captain is? Yes. Does the coach need to have a bit more authority over the players? Absolutely. All right. But we're not talking about a binary thing where all is chaos and we now must go to order. All right. We're talking about important but marginal improvements in synchronization, harmonization, and deconfliction.
Thank you. So in closing, we're going to go back to the personal side. First question, what event in military history do you most admire?
In my leisure time, I really do like to read books about the American Civil War and just sit there and recognize the incredible heroism of our countrymen. I want to share this with the group. At NSA, we generally have home and home with our English-speaking partners, particularly with the Brits. On leadership team meetings, go across the Atlantic. Even number of years, we go to Great Britain, and they put us up in some lovely country home south of London. Odd number of years, they come to Glen Burnie, Maryland. We put them up in the Motel 6, and we have meaningful professional discussions. We took the Brits up to Gettysburg on one of those trips. There's a legend out there in the rest of the world that says Americans are so casualty averse that they just can't, they can't stick it out. I was there with Sir Francis Richards, who was the head of GCHQ at the time, and we were down there along Seminary Ridge, where Longstreet and Lee and Pickett were on day 3 of the battle. And we were looking up at the copse of trees up there on Cemetery Ridge, where the Union Army was. And we had a docent with us from the Army War College, and he was guiding it. And we were going to walk it. We were going to walk Pickett's charge. Okay? And we started going up, and he turned, and I think he was mostly talking to the British audience. We're only a dozen folks. He turned and said to all of us, but I think talking to the Brits, now in the next 75 minutes, more Americans will die than died 81 years later on the beaches of Normandy on the 6th of June. We're tough people. We've gone through hard problems. When you read about what really very ordinary people, for God's sake, the hero of Gettysburg is a rhetoric professor from Bowdoin College. It's what really normal Americans were able to accomplish, despite how difficult the problems we face today seem to be. We as a nation have the resources. As a nation, not as a government, we as a nation have the resources to handle them.
What are the most critical components of a leader?
Frankly, I actually say this when I go back and do some mentoring of officers now, dance with who you brung. You've got to be who you are. Okay, and you can't, I'm the squadron commander now, so I've got to be, you've got to be the personality that God created for you. And so I would just say, be true to yourself, even in those positions of increased responsibility.
Who are the real heroes, or who are your heroes in real life?
This is going to sound corny, but it's what comes to mind. Okay, in my last couple of jobs, okay, my time in war zones was almost military tourism. You know, I'd fly in with an ecosystem to protect me and sustain my communications wherever I was going. But I would really try to go visit the troops. In the last job, it was stations and bases for CIA, but they were thoroughly integrated. All right. The people who are involved in the American security establishment are frankly the very best of the American culture, of the American society. There wasn't a trip I took, no matter how demanding it was, how long we flew, how many nights we had on the airplane, that I didn't come back re-energized and sustained by the troops that I visited. So I took my energy from those folks.
What natural gift would you like to possess?
I'm very comfortable talking to 400 people. I'm not nearly as comfortable talking to 4. I wish that was easier for me to do.
What do you like?
I like football.
What do you dislike?
I used to love baseball. It seems to be so slow moving now.
What was your favorite occupation, position, and why?
The last job was the best job any American could ever have. Being director of CIA, not an easy task, but to be able to have people say, I got to see you right now at 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, come into your office, lay a map out, throw some pictures there, talk to somebody over here, hit the red switch, talk to somebody on the other side of the world, make a decision, go home, come to work the next morning, and get the pictures as to what happened. That's a real good feeling. The second best job I had, and the best one until I got the last one, I was a military attaché in a communist bloc country during the Cold War. That was like being a juvenile delinquent. You had to have no respect for the laws of the host country, and the only thing you had to be careful was not to present some armed 19-year-old Bulgarian soldier with a decision that was too tough for him to handle.
What would you have liked to be?
I'm fine.
Last question.
Center fielder, but that's a long time ago.
What is your passion, General?
I've been blessed. I've had wonderful work. I've worked with wonderful people, some of whom I recognize in the room here. I'm looking forward to talking to afterwards. Putting me where you put me, I got to see things that nobody growing up on the north side of Pittsburgh ever expected to see. I mean, when you sit down with King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia and have an hour's chat about the Iranians, I mean, it's hard to fathom. Less good, but still a strong impression. In retrospect, incredibly rewarding, is be in the sit room and have the President of the United States at one end of the table appear to be making eye contact with you and asking you a very difficult and very important question. And you know full well that he's actually looking at the guy behind you, because there's no way he could possibly be asking you that. And you realize there is no one behind you. Okay? Although they weren't all that fun at the time, looking back, what a special place.
Great. In closing, 3 words that I captured here. You can help. We need your great minds. We need your innovation. We need your technology. And we got to move from me to we and us against them, the adversaries. Thank you for your time. And General, thank you.
Thank you. I'll see you all in the morning.